Hello, and thank you for joining us today for FranNet's How to Fund Your Business, whether it's the business startup, purchase of an existing business, or purchase of a franchise. Before we get started on the program today, just a couple of housekeeping items. Our program is being recorded, and a recording will be sent out to you at the conclusion of the program for future viewing. All lines are muted during the program here today. However, if you do have a question, there is a section on your control panel on your screen where you can submit a question, and we will do our best to get all questions answered at the conclusion of the program. So I want to thank you again for joining us here today. And let's go ahead and let's just make sure that our screen is working. There we go. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. My name is Bridget Betzer, and I am here with FranNet to talk a little bit about the lending environment here today. I'm with FranNet in Michigan. I've been in franchising my entire career, over 20 years now. I was on the franchisor side before joining FranNet about 10 years ago. And I'm up here in the greater Grand Rapids, Michigan area, working with folks just like you, educating them on business and franchise ownership and guiding them through the process to identify franchises to research that might be a really good fit for them. For those of you who haven't heard about FranNet before, we're a 30-year-old international franchise consultancy firm, and we have over 100 hyper-local based franchise consultants all across North America and Europe. And we've got some awesome partnerships to work right alongside with us in guiding our clients through the launch of a business or even the growth of an existing business. These are partnerships with groups like the Small Business Development Center and SCORE, and we are the only franchise consultancy firm with those partnerships. So the best way for me to describe what we do every day is to compare it to the dating world. Here at FranNet, we're matchmakers. We work with folks, like I mentioned, just like you, who are exploring business ownership, providing them education, guidance, and assistance to help them identify franchises that will meet their needs. Our services are always 100% free to you, our client. We work a lot like executive recruiters. And so we work with you to identify choices and provide you education and resources so that you can make informed decisions. So we don't sell franchises. And we do a lot of pre-screening, not just of you, the applicant, to meet our franchisor standards, but also screening of the franchisors. And so all franchises, we have about 250 different franchise concepts in our inventory, and they're all pre-screened to our applicant standards. Now today, as we look at our topic, one of the things that we here at FranNet do is work with another resource to guide our clients through the funding and financing piece of the investment in their business. This is a big piece of the process. It's a really important piece of the process that you should start thinking about and taking a look at as you start your research on businesses. So I want to introduce to you today Wendy Skimmer with Benetrends. She's going to talk to us a little bit about how to fund your business in today's lending environment. Wendy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Bridget, and thank you everybody for joining us on this cold in some places Monday in November. What we're going to be talking about today is really what's happening in the lending environment. A lot of folks are curious if in the times that we're in with the pandemic, are the banks lending? And the exciting news is yes, they are. And there's other ways to fund your business as well that we'll talk about today. I've been in funding now for a real long time, hitting on almost 2 decades with small business. Prior to that, big corporations, moving all over the country. And Benetrends has been helping folks like yourself fund businesses since 1983. Tens of thousands of businesses that you probably frequent cumulatively have been funded through one of Benetrends' programs. Today, we're going to go through the different programs that we do here at Benetrends and some other out-of-the-box thinking programs. We do go through quickly, so I do encourage you to get with your FranNet consultant and get connected with us here at Benetrends to do a one-on-one consultation to talk about your specific goals and how we can help you achieve them. Most of us, when we do think about getting buying a business, the first thing we will think about is getting a small business loan. And the banks are lending. What we do here at Benetrends is very much what you expect of your mortgage broker when you go to find a house. Just like FranNet is doing the matchmaking process with you in the right brand, Benetrends, if you need a small business loan, we do a matchmaking process with the right SBA lender. What's exciting is that there are loans and banks lending for programs that require a loan amount of of 50,000 all the way up to $5 million. So there's a program a lot of folks are talking about, the 150 and under program. Whether you're talking about 50,000, again, 155 million, Benetrends can help you find a lender. Most startups, franchise business opportunities, the only way you're going to get a bank for that endeavor is through an SBA preferred lender, because they do want that guarantee from the government. The maximum interest rate that you would be charged legally by any SBA lender today is 6%. Prime is sitting at 3.25. The most the SBA lender is allowed to charge you is 2.75 over prime. Puts you right at about 6% interest. The majority of my loans are coming in the mid fives, which is very exciting. Now that does mean that you can fill the requirements. So what are those requirements? A strong personal credit score. A lot of folks always want to know a number. In most cases, a 680 or better with no short sale, foreclosure, or bankruptcy in the last decade usually will pass that test. However, we do look at your full credit report, as it does tell a story. You will need to have skin in the game. I get calls every day that ask if we have programs for 100% financing, and they're out there in different avenues, but not with an SBA loan on its own. And we'll talk about that. So what you're expected is for a startup franchise to put down 20 to 30%. If you are looking at an existing resale and it's cash flow positive, sometimes it would be between 10 and 20%. When you're looking at a loan over 150, and that's not a project over 150, a loan size over 150, you should expect that there will be a personal collateral requirement. Depending on where you are in the country, it could be your personal real estate, your primary real estate, investment property. If that's not an option, for whatever reason, there's money in a CD, we look at options and we try to figure out the best way to satisfy that personal collateral requirement. If there are business assets, there'll always be a first lien on business assets. Worth mentioning, the 150 and under program. It's called the Express program. There's so many, the fast track. What you want to keep in mind with that is you most likely will not need a personal collateral requirement, although the types of businesses that those loans are for do not allow for tenant improvement. So if you're doing a brick and mortar, we could talk about creative ways to figure out if you wanted to utilize a loan that size. Okay, when you're going to apply for an SBA loan with Benetrends, we have a great pre-qualification program that's not going to be, one, asking you for money or an obligation, but also at this point, we're not going to be asking you for tax returns, business plan, or resume. But I want you to keep in mind, as you're navigating through getting an SBA loan, you will absolutely need them. We will give you a template for your business plan. However, the onus is definitely on the candidate and the client to put together that business plan. There's a lot of assistance for that. We do have a company if you ever needed it. One thing that we see here in Benetrends, more than not, probably 80% of my clients to date utilize the rollover program that we're going to be talking about shortly, and a small business loan. What folks are really concerned about in today's environment especially is that post-tax cash. The money that you've already paid taxes on, it's sitting in your bank account, it's your liquid money. If you've lost your job, that's what you're using to pay your bills. We are going to attack this business opportunity purchase with keeping in mind that we want to preserve that as best we can, and we'll talk about ways to do that. But first, just real quick, when we're looking at an SBA loan, it's really important to understand the process in which we get there. The first thing we do, just like that mortgage broker, is a free pre-qualification. Really important at this time to be preserving your credit. Benetrends will not run your credit. We ask you to prepare a credit report that will not be an inquiry. And with that information, we give you a pre-qualification. What that pre-qualification means is that we believe in our pool of lenders that there is a lender that we can land your loan package with. Hopefully more than one. The goal is always to come back with a couple term sheets. In today's environment, if it's, depending on the size of the loan, that's extremely realistic. Those smaller loans might just be one or two offerings, but hopefully they're extremely competitive in the market, and then we can help you navigate through getting a loan. What you want to keep in mind is the time it takes to get an SBA loan could be, if it's brick and mortar, a 90 to 100 plus days. Non-brick and mortar, maybe it's 60-ish days. These are the steps that it goes through. You're first getting pre-qualified, then we're going to help you package that loan and send it to lenders with the hopes of getting term sheets back. Then you work with the lender to get an approval, then you go into closing. So as you can see, there's a lot of steps involved. Benetrends holds your hand through every step. Make sure you don't miss a beat, and also to make sure that those banks are getting you what you need and closing that loan in a timely fashion. A lot of questions about post-closing liquidity are coming up in today's environment. I know Bridget's talking about this a lot with her clients. The banks are asking what is going to be in those bank accounts, those savings accounts, after you close the loan. What's liquid? Do you still have retirement funds available? They want to see that whether you're working or not, you have a nice nest egg, 6 to 12 months, preferably 12 months if you're not working, of living expenses in your liquid funds. The timing of the franchise purchase and getting the bank loan, and if you're doing brick and mortar, signing the lease, that whole chronological event, those chronological events, Benetrends will help you navigate through. Make sure that it's simple and we're not getting the cart before the horse, and that as you're going through the steps, we're protecting your skin in the game. Again, business plan, very important piece of the puzzle. Benetrends will give you a template. We have resources if you want folks to do it for you. Highly encourage clients to get as involved in that, if not do it for themselves. Folks ask me every day, if I don't have somebody in my household employed, can I still get an SBA loan? And the answer is yes. Does that mean there's more post-closing liquidity required? Absolutely. Does it mean that they're going to look for my credit maybe to be a little stronger? Absolutely. It's a balancing act. The banks are looking at, if you're not working, okay, well, what's in their savings account? What kind of runway do they have? If you're not working, they're going to look, maybe your spouse is working, there's still money coming into that household. So these are all the different things that they're going to look at. If you are not working, it does not mean black and white, you will not get an SBA loan. There's other factors involved. Communication and expectation in getting a loan, or one of the things that I hear from folks who go directly to a loan, is their biggest disappointment. They think the loan's going to close in 30 days. They're 60, 65 days in. They still haven't heard back from the lender. When you work with Benetrends, we will not let that happen with the lender. I will not sugarcoat the fact that lenders are sitting on things a lot longer than they used to, because their stacks of loan payment packages, is ever so increasing. They're still getting over the relief funding and the PPP, so they are inundated. So things are taking longer than normal, but Benetrends will be on top of that, communicating. I say we're good bank nudgers. We do stay on top of that process to make sure that it doesn't get lost in the mix and taking any longer than it has to. One of the most exciting programs we have here at Benetrends is the Rollover for Business Startup. Always worth mentioning, we are owned by the ERISA tax attorney who pioneered this program in 1983, Leonard Fisher. I don't use the word legend lightly. He is a legend in this industry. Without Len, no one would be able to utilize this program. And what this program is it gives you the ability to utilize retirement funds without tax or penalty to open your business. It is one of the most popular funding strategies out there. You will be surprised. I know some states are closed and open. I'm in California. Sounds like we might be closing again, but I was out and about, and you can't make this stuff up. I went to go get puppy lessons for my new puppy. It ended up the owner of the business utilized home equity and a rollover for business startup. Was happy she was a Benetrends client. But you will be out and about and realizing how many businesses are funded this way. It's becoming more and more popular. And to show the validity of the program, of course, it's statutory law that allows you to do this. But also when you go to a bank and you say, I'm doing a rollover for business startup for my 20 to 30% cash injection, they consider that non-borrowed funds, as it's an equity investment. Really important. Normally when you're looking at an SBA loan, you're thinking, oh, I have to use my money in my savings account for my 20% down because it's non-borrowed. You can absolutely use an old 401k, a traditional IRA for the rollover program and utilize those funds as your down payment, minimizing any out-of-pocket with post-tax dollars. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, This makes no sense. I have a $200,000 retirement plan. If I pull the money out, I'm going to pay taxes and penalties. I know nothing else. This is what I knew most of my career. I have my MBA in accounting. Not until about 15 years ago did I first learn about this. And then, of course, begged to come to Benetrends to be a part of this sensation. So here's the thing. If you just pull out that retirement funds to buy your business, let's say it's 200,000, you just left your big job, you're 54 like myself, you will pay a 10% penalty, and then whatever tax bracket you're in which the year you pull that money out. The average client I speak to, if they just pull the money out and not go through the rollover program, would end up with only $120,000. That could be the difference between getting the brand you really like or settling, or potentially going into multi-unit ownership. It's just putting money on the table or leaving money on the table that you do not need to. Now, many of us don't realize, but in our careers, we've actually done a rollover before. Have you ever rolled retirement funds from a current job? You left that job and you took that money with you and you rolled them to another employer. So for example, I used to work in the 90s, back for the Gap. I was all excited, and then I went to work for Electronic Arts. When I left the Gap, I took my Gap 401k and I rolled it into my Electronic Arts 401k, tax deferred, penalty free. Now, of course, when I got to Electronic Arts, I was all excited. I'm part of tech and games, and it just seemed so fun. I want stock in this company. So I turned around and said to my custodian, boy, I want to invest some of my money in the stock of Electronic Arts. What I didn't think about at the time was that the proceeds of that stock sale are going to go right to Electronic Arts. All I cared about was my stock investment. But when you think about it, that makes sense. I buy stock in Electronic Arts, I get the stock, Electronic Arts gets the money. Most of us have done this in our careers. A lot of us roll into a rollover IRA, but a lot of us have rolled into the current employer's 401k. What if, when you turned around and rolled that money in, instead of buying money in Electronic Arts, what if it was my company? What if it was Trendy Wendy doing business as ABC Franchise? Well, that would mean that I'd get the money for my company. So how do we make that happen? So here's what we do for you here at Benetrends. We create the corporate entity. When you utilize this program, the IRS dictates what kind of entity you can be. You have to be a C corporation. Benetrends we have an in-house incorporation team. We'll do your bylaws, your articles of incorporation, your EIN number. Depending on your state, if we can, we'll do your DBA, doing business as, get that infrastructure all set up for you. And here's where the magic happens. We're going to then customize a qualified retirement plan for your corporation to adopt, sponsor, some say sponsor. So what that means is, just like when I worked for Electronic Arts, they sponsored a 401k. Now my company is going to sponsor a better qualified retirement plan. Could I have a 401k? Absolutely, but most likely there's a better option. And so we're going to create that better option for you. And as an employee of your C corporation, you are now eligible to roll in those eligible retirement funds from your previous employer's 401k or traditional IRA, rollover IRA. Of course, you're going to roll those funds in tax deferred and penalty free. Now, a lot of folks are asking me, as we're approaching the end of this year, well, if I was personally impacted by COVID, I can take out a COVID withdrawal of $100,000. So why do I really need to do this program? Well, if you take out a COVID withdrawal, a couple things. One is you're going to cap out at $100,000, but more importantly, you're going to have a 3-year taxable event. This avoids that. I have folks who are now in current employers who were impacted by COVID, who took the COVID relief and rolled it into the retirement rollover program to avoid the 3-year taxable event. Having that taxation due over the first 3 years of opening a business, if it can be avoided, is definitely in your best interest. Now, when we roll that money into the new plan, what happens next? Just like in the previous example, you're going to buy stock in your newly formed corporation. Of course, when you do that, you're going to have those funds wire transferred out of your, let's say you're with Fidelity or Vanguard, out of that account right to your corporate bank account, tax deferred, penalty free. So in that previous example, when we were looking at that $200,000, you'd be in a situation where instead of having that taxation and those penalties, you'd have access to that full $200,000. So of course, the ability to utilize those funds without tax or penalty is a huge advantage of utilizing this program. I get questions every day. I have $100,000 in cash in my bank account, and I have $100,000 in my traditional IRA. Why would I use my IRA? And all day long, I just want to remind you, what did it take to get to that $100,000 net tax in your personal bank account? Probably had to earn 100,000, 80,000, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I'm sorry, 120,000, 140,000 to get to that 100,000. That's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to that $100,000. Let's look at that IRA. What did I have to earn, blood, sweat, and tears, to get to $100,000? Probably more like 75, 80,000. I had appreciation. Maybe it's from a previous employer match. So in my opinion, if I want to invest money, boy, my money in my savings account is way too precious to use when I have the ability to touch this IRA. And yes, I might be getting a good return on my IRA. I know the market's up today, but boy, my FranNet consultant is going to match me up with a business that's going to blow away that return on investment. I'm going to invest in myself instead. Of course, benefits of using pre-tax dollars, it's less risk. It's definitely a smarter investment, whether you succeed or whether you don't hit those expectations. The ability to minimize, if not eliminate, debt in a new small business is a tremendous benefit. Optimizing that equity and value that you have in your business, growing your investment as opposed to just getting a job or just getting a loan. You're making an equity investment in your future is definitely attractive. Now, a lot of folks want to know what plans qualify. You might be thinking, oh, I was a teacher and I have a T of craft, or I was in the service and I have a TSP, or is an annuity eligible? The best way to think about what's eligible is to think about what's not eligible. So a Roth IRA, not eligible. An inherited IRA from anybody other than a spouse is not eligible. If you are currently working and you wanted to utilize your current 401k, it's worth talking about. Were you impacted by COVID? Maybe you could take a loan against it. Of course, that wouldn't involve Benetrends, but that would help you achieve a goal for $50,000 up to 50% of your plan. So those are the types of things we'll talk about. But as far as on our one-on-one consultation, but as far as what plans can qualify, old 401k, most IRAs, just non-Roth IRA, annuities, TSP, all of them are eligible. The combination of using a rollover and SBA loan is definitely the key to success, mostly when looking at multi-unit franchises. But if you have a large investment on that first unit, very well might be a great path for success. It does give you the ability to take a salary day one. A lot of folks ask me that. And in a lot of cases, gives you the opportunity to roll over additional working capital down the road if you want to. Of course, the ability to expand under that C corporation and add multi-unit franchises is what that infrastructure leads to very successful clients being able to achieve that multi-territory, multi-unit. Now, worth mentioning in my last minute before I pass this back over to Bridget, other funding programs. I mentioned that participation loan. What if I have an existing employee 401k plan and I haven't been impacted by COVID? Can I touch that money? Can I use that towards my loan? Most lenders will accept that as a cash injection since you're basically borrowing it from yourself. However, you do usually cap out at 50,000, 50% of that plan. And then lastly, this is becoming more and more popular. And most folks can do this where you hold the investment. If you have a portfolio post-tax, so let's say with Schwab, you have a couple $100,000 just invested post-tax dollars in mutual funds, stocks, and bonds. You can utilize that for a line of credit. It's use as you go, interest rates below 4%. I heard Chase right now is offering below 2%. What's nice is that it is use as you go and could be used in conjunction with an SBA loan for your down payment. I have a great many folks using that in addition to a rollover to achieve multi-unit and multi-territory projects that they're working on. And of course, just worth mentioning, with rates so low, I do have a good many clients that are utilizing home equity in addition to using a rollover or getting a small business loan instead of getting a small business loan because the rates are so attractive. With that said, excuse me, I know I go through everything real fast. I look forward to speaking with some of you one-on-one, or if you're working with another consultant here at Benetrends, and I'm going to pass it back over to Bridget.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wendy. And you're right, a lot of information in a very short amount of time. And as we wrap up here, I would love it if you have a question to submit it in your question box, and we'll address those here in just a moment. But before we do so, your next steps would be, like Wendy said, to connect with your FranNet representative and have them work with you to connect you to the Benetrends representative that can give you a one-on-one consultation. And if you haven't done so yet, one of the ways that we can help you best here at FranNet is to have you complete your franchise readiness assessment. That's our proprietary profiling tool, and it will help to establish your individual values, motives, and core competencies. You can find this assessment, which takes about 30 minutes to complete online, at our website by clicking on the orange boxes seen on your screen here now. If you'd like to have a conversation with your FranNet consultant prior to completing that assessment, feel free to locate your consultant also on our webpage by clicking on the Consultants tab. So we want to thank you for joining us here today. We know we did cover a lot of information in a very short amount of time, and as you know, the lending environment is changing regularly. Wendy and Benetrends can be a great resource for you, and if they can't assist you in achieving your funding and financing needs, they definitely will have the resources and guidance to offer to help you make the best choices as you look at funding your business startup, purchase of an existing business, or purchase of a franchise. So we're going to go ahead and take some questions now. Let's just see what questions we have in the question box. And actually, Wendy, we don't have any questions in the question box at this time.
Oh,
so
wow.
like I mentioned, thanks. Yes, quiet group here today. So we still have another minute. If you want to submit a question, go for it. Otherwise, we want to thank you for joining us here today. And like I mentioned, the best way to connect with Benetrends and to get that one-on-one consultation is to connect with your local FranNet consultant. And yes, Benetrends does help with non-franchise funding. And let's go ahead and put your contact information back on the screen here. Wendy's contact information is on the screen. You can contact her directly. If you have not been able to connect with your FranNet consultant, I do recommend that you connect with your FranNet consultant as well, and they can connect you with Wendy if you're unable to do so, or another Benetrends representative. But any other questions, please submit them in the question box. We do have another minute or so here before we do wrap our program up here today. And like I mentioned, the program is being recorded. You will get a recording. I know we did cover a lot of information in a very short amount of time. As Wendy mentioned, the strategy for funding your business is different for everyone. So it would be good to connect with her one-on-one, or for you to connect with your FranNet representative. So Wendy, a question that just came up is, does the corporation have to be a C corporation versus an LLC if you utilize the rollover program?
The C corporation has to be there either way, yes. But you could have the C corporation be the entity, the franchise, the business, or the only other option would be to have the C corporation be the majority owner of that LLC. And that means that you're investing with the retirement funds, and that's the only structure that's permitted. Again, so the C corporation has to be the business, or it has to be the majority owner, but there's no doing the ROBs without the C corporation.
Great. And there was another question that came in, and Michael, you asked this question, and I may have to have you clarify in the question box here, but I'm assuming you're asking about an existing business, Michael. Michael asked, how are banks viewing a company's revenue being lower this year than prior years? Is that related to an SBA loan, perhaps?
I would assume so. And what I would say to that is, what's really important to the lender is cash flow positivity. And I think depending on the genre, it would be really basically expected in this environment that 2020 is not going to be as strong as 2019. Now, some genres are stronger, but as long as that existing business still is cash flow positive, I'll be able to find, usually I'll be able to find a lender. The best way to look at it is looking at their projections and what they've done in 2020, and would they be able to service the debt you would need for that business? And we can help you figure that out for sure.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. And yes, he did clarify it was for the addition of another location. So I think that answered that question. Hopefully that answered your question there, Michael. So thank you to those of you that submitted questions in the question box. And another question that just came up, Wendy, is are you able to do this in a 501c3 versus a corporation for funding?
It has to be a C corporation. We have to issue common shares of stock.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Great. Well, thanks for joining us, Wendy. And we really do appreciate you giving us kind of an inside look here at today's lending environment. And we know that that was a lot of information in a short amount of time, and that every individual's situation with their business purchase is going to be unique. We do appreciate you joining us here today. We wish you best of luck in your endeavors here. Wendy, thanks again for sharing information. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you so much. Happy Monday. Stay healthy.
Take care. Bye-bye.